I want her to step.
Yes!
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 997, directed by Katsumi Tokoro and supervised by Kenji Yokoyama. With a preview that doesn't show very much, it looks like we'll be all the more eager to see the final product this week in order to see what the episode has in store. While I'm not expecting anything particularly amazing, the main staff is full of two of the most seasoned staff members on the series no matter how hero their Tokoro can be, so it should at the very least be quite solid for the introduction of the Sulon forms for most of the Mink tribe. There's really not much to gather from the preview that we haven't already with those really nice and powerful moonshots, so will episode 997 be a good connecting piece to last week's proper start of the raid? Time to transform and find out. This episode covers the remaining 5 pages of chapter 987 and the first 4 pages of chapter 988. And that makes it so I have no issue calling this episode a bit of a slog overall, obviously, due to it being full of content that they feel as though they can sacrifice a bit. With very little really in the way of added filler outside of some short action towards the end, and a fair bit of padding out in regards to all the numerous parties making their way into Onigashima, which I'm thankful was extended, but it goes on for such a specific amount of time that it's obvious this was all a calculated pacing decision, making it so they can not only save content but also resources for the upcoming weeks. And nowhere is that more obvious than the Odin vs Kaido flashback once again for the 3rd episode in a row, and the flashbacks to Jack at Zoe that are obviously there to pad for time, with the latter serving as a bit of a recap for some. Of course it's not horrendous because when the direction does matter, it does ramp itself up a bit in regards to OST selection, with a lot of Stampede tracks being used that add a lot to the Minks transforming, but it's really a meh and bare bones offering on the content and pacing end to obviously make sure other episodes are fine, and when it's not entirely sacrificed when it comes to quality, I think I can live with it. While it's surely nothing spectacular, I will say that Tokoro's board here were serviceable enough for this content when it came down to it. Focusing on portraying the scale of Kaido versus the Scabbards and Minks very grandly with many cool tracking shots of everyone that are hard to pull off, as well as some cool shots of the full moon reflecting in the Minks' eyes that look pretty. Sure, it may not be a whole lot, especially with all the padding and recap, and outside of that it's pretty by the numbers when everything else comes into play, but like I said for the adaptation, it's obviously a bit of a necessary sacrifice in the regard to make sure this episode stays within the boundaries of the production set up for it, and so as to not tread on the feet of future more important episodes. When wrapped all up with solid as usual corrections from Kenji Yokoyama, 997 doesn't end up being anything spectacular, but it did its job well. We should have known from the preview that it wasn't one that was going to be amazing. It at the very least rose to the occasion when it came down to the big moments of it and did them justice as well as it could. It's disposable, but in a weekly production like One Piece that is entering a huge all-out battle arc, it's quite obvious why these episodes are sometimes needed. And that's to help episodes like next week's episode 998 that looks like it's on the other side of things. Sure, the preview doesn't show much quite like this week, but from what it does show, it has some stuff to already be excited for, as director Kenichi Takeshita's board still looks atmospheric and cinematic along with Shuichi Ito's polished art that distract from the preview, willingly holding off some cuts for us to enjoy for the final product. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and yeah, please keep using more Stampede OST whenever, please.